Welcome back to the Secure Connections Podcast, a weekly series brought to you by IoTSSA, the Internet of Things Security Services Association. I'm your host, Brian Sherman, Content Director for IoTSSA, and in today's episode, I have the privilege of speaking with two team members from ADT Cybersecurity, Heather Myers, Channel Manager, and Ron Culler, Senior Director of Technology and Solutions. Good day and welcome to the Secure Connections Podcast, Heather and Ron.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Nice to be here.
Let me get the view changed here. It's a little awkward sometimes, but we'll make it work. So I believe this is the first time that either of you have been a guest on the Secure Connections podcast. Am I right? Am I wrong?
That's correct.
Okay.
My first as well.
Good. Well, we'll break you in the right way. So we want to learn a little about yourselves before we get into the meat and potatoes of the cybersecurity discussion. Why don't I start with you, Heather? Where did you grow up?
Born and raised in Tucson, Arizona. So I'm an Arizona native. I'm actually in Phoenix now, been here for some time, but born and raised down in Tucson, about 2 hours from where I'm currently at.
Awesome. Nice to have somebody from the Western Coast. I don't know if it's true all the way west, but it's great to have you on today. And yeah. Ron, I've known you from North Carolina as long as we've known each other, but are you originally from that area?
Yeah, actually originally from Winston-Salem.
Great.
Born and raised, did 10 years in the Navy, saw the world, and then came back right back to the same area and have been here since.
Very good. Well, I have you on too. So what led you to a career in IT?
Honestly, I don't know. I spent most of my time in the Navy actually in electronics, doing component level work. And got out and found I couldn't find a job doing that, and got into IT. Went to work at a company. Later bought it. It was a solution provider. We did network integration design work for a number of years, and then I wanted back to my passion, which was security. And that was late '98 that we started the idea of a managed security provider. 2000, changed the company name, sold off the integration piece, and did nothing but managed security. So we were a pioneer, thick-headed. I'm not quite sure what most people told us we'd never survive doing managed security in 2000, but here we are today.
You're still making it go 20 years later. That's fantastic. So Heather, and I know we had a chance to talk last night it's one of the many happy hours in the channel. So, and I understand you're not to offend you, a good tech nerd as well. Have been around the security space for a while. So why don't you tell me how you got your start in the industry?
Yeah, it was interesting because for about 10 years, I worked for a nonprofit, the National Office for the Muscular Dystrophy Association down in Tucson, while I went to the University of Arizona, actually pursuing business and marketing. But I always saw technology as a way to improve processes, which is always fascinated with taking processes that were like paper files and putting them into databases, and never really saw myself as a tech person. But after I graduated, I decided to venture a career into software sales for a company. And for about 5 years, I oversaw their channel program and helping businesses incorporate software as a service into their business. And then from there, I moved into software development sales, which was pretty intriguing to me, the software development piece. And then from there, I moved into a career in cybersecurity sales, which was about end of 2016. Well, it was interesting because when I got into cybersecurity sales, I realized pretty quickly that you have to know what you're talking about. It is a very sensitive industry, and I was dealing with CISOs and C-level executives. And so I was like, whoa, I need to quickly, overnight, learn what all this hacking stuff is and what pen testing is and red teaming is. So internally, I asked, can I be a part of every process from when I'm selling it to executing and all the reports and findings and remediations and just dig my heels into everything possible. And then I started taking courses online with like Cybrary and Udemy. It's called, different names depending who you're talking to. So I started doing online courses and really networking with my community organizations that dealt with cybersecurity and got involved with Women in Security and Privacy, an organization that helps mentor women in security and privacy, and just like latched on to them and decided, wait a second, this is me finding my passion. I just was in love with cybersecurity. So I decided to go back to school and actually get my degree in cybersecurity. So I'm currently pursuing a master's in information security from the University of Arizona, bear down. So interesting, it just really happened and unfolded. It wasn't something I even thought I was good at all, but I'm here to stay and I totally love it.
Awesome. The one nice part I think about the cybersecurity space too, and Ron is a good example of that, is the number of mentors and people that would love to just spend time and talk about, the intricacies, whether it's pen testing or perimeter monitoring. There's so many different angles with cybersecurity, but it's a great group. I believe a great place for people to be and start and learn.
Interesting you say that, because I have never found a community as giving of their time as cybersecurity. I mean, you have people like you're mentioning that will just pour their time into you. I mean, I can't tell you how many meetups I go to through meetup.com and through these different communities like Women in Security and Cybersecurity Council, and everybody's volunteering their time. And there's all these chat groups and discords, and it is truly the most amazing community. Absolutely.
And then when we get bored at night, we have happy hour online, just because everybody doesn't know what else to do these days when they're locked at home. So this is true. It's fun. This is true.
Yeah. 4 hours into it, we're like, whoa, they're like, we better get off. It's 10 p.m. their time.
You can't keep people stopped at this point. So, well, let's spend a little time talking about ADT. And it's one of those instantly recognizable names for anybody, though probably more well known for its roots in home security. I'd be surprised if I can't find somebody that doesn't know the name ADT. But Can you please give us a brief overview of the company and your channel's cybersecurity offerings? Because I think that's really what we're here for today. I don't know if Heather, you want to take that, or Ron?
Yeah, sure. I think Heather's best with that.
Gotcha.
Sure. Like you mentioned, people know ADT as physical security, over 140 years in that space. I would say about 10 years ago, correct me if I'm wrong, Ron, is when ADT decided to go into the cybersecurity space and really focus on the enterprise level cybersecurity solutions direct to businesses. So we've been doing that for close to 10 years. I mean, we have really what I call state-of-the-art infrastructure. We have US-based SOC and NOC operations across the United States that are providing the top level types of cybersecurity. I mean, we have the professionals that you need to really offer cybersecurity. We can train them. We can offer them competitive packages to retain them, which is very important to offering cybersecurity. So we have this infrastructure and all these solutions, which some people call defense in depth, right? It's the full layer of cybersecurity solutions that an enterprise would need to really withstand the types of threats that they face from hackers. And so over the past couple of years, a little more than that, we realized that small businesses are actually the prime target for hackers. And so we decided, how can we take what we have here, this enterprise level cybersecurity, and help secure small businesses? I mean, it's not a mystery that they're being targeted, and about 50% of the hacks that happened affected small businesses last year. And it's interesting because within 6 months of that, they go out of business, right? And so we thought, how can we do something about that? And what we decided was that through the MSP space, what better way, right, than to take these enterprise level cybersecurity solutions and make them affordable. That's the other piece. In cybersecurity, it's expensive. So we decided that we would develop a channel program and rely on our expertise and our staff in this infrastructure and make it affordable, and partner with MSPs and MSSPs and IT companies and really equip them with this infrastructure and these solutions at an affordable price for them to then go out and secure their customers. And I think that really at a high level, Ron, I don't know if you want to add anything, is really the goal of what we're doing and kind of the evolving path for us to bring cybersecurity to the SMB market.
It was really designed to give people the ability to specialize and focus on what they're really good at. So most MSPs focus on the infrastructure, business solutions, the entire encompassing network, where it's hard to specialize on one piece of it. Well, that's what we do. It's a specialization on the security side. And with the physical as well as the cyber, now they can have both pieces in one place. Your internet connection is another door into your business. It's just a door with a doorstep everywhere in the world.
That makes sense. Ron, and I know you've been obviously very active within the community for a long time. Do you see this as a scalability option for MSPs, whether it comes to expertise scalability or just breadth scalability for them to add additional services?
It's a little of both. From that expertise piece, there are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of cybersecurity based jobs that are out there, but that's a full-time job. I can't have the guy that's focusing on my O365 migrations or infrastructure updates or things like that also being my cybersecurity expert. You can't do those two things. And to have that capability in an organization, it takes a lot of focus, and it takes all of our focus. So having that allows, using organizations like ourselves allows a company to expand out their service offerings because they have to offer security. And many MSSPs or MSPs have offered a security layer for years, whether they knew it or not, whether it's a backup data recovery, patch management, endpoint management, things like that. They've offered those things. We're able to bring all of it together, tie it all together, and offer the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week coverage that's needed.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and to catapult off of that, the other thing is that we're doing all the heavy lifting, like Ron is saying. And so the other piece to learning cybersecurity is it's an in-depth knowledge and skill set, and you wouldn't expect an MSP to become an expert in all of that, right? And so some other partnerships are great, but they're offering the solution without the managed service. And so there's just too much that goes into an MSP trying to offer cybersecurity because now they're inundated with managing it and learning it.
Now, you had mentioned training, cybersecurity training. You're referring to phishing training and end user training as well. Can you give me a little bit of depth on that?
Yeah, so we do offer everything from, the first line of defense is training your employees, educating them, and letting them know that they are really that first layer of defense through social engineering and phishing attacks. So we can do training awareness and simulations of phishing emails.
Very good. Now, MSP's bread and butter is obviously the SMB, and I think you referred to it earlier is moving down into the small business segment. What are some of the cybersecurity challenges your MSP partners are running into supporting the small business community?
A lot of times it's just the sheer volume and the diversity that an MSP has. Most MSPs are regionally focused. They've got a group, whether they've got a vertical or not. They're typically maintaining a lot of different kinds of networks. And with that, there's a lot of diversity. Everything from the small mom and pop, 1 or 2 man shops that need one type of security focus to point of sale retail or healthcare, manufacturing. It's so diverse. We're able to bring a lot of expertise to that field because we have thousands and thousands of those customers today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see that definitely as like the internal issue and barrier that an MSP might face, right? And then there's the other side of that with it's alarming, but 82% of business owners of small businesses don't actually feel that they're a threat or that cybersecurity and hackers are a threat to their business. So now an MSP is navigating that, right? So is this MSP trying to sell me something that I don't need? And there is a lot of data out there, right? And so helping an MSP sell it and recommending the services and what we have to offer is another piece of what we can do within the partner channel, is getting on those calls. If an MSP wants us to be, one of the things we're doing is we're a seamless extension of their business. We're their cybersecurity team. We don't even want to be a partner. We want to be a part of their business, right? And so getting on those calls, and we don't represent as ADT. We can. Sometimes MSPs really like to leverage that. But we can just be a part of their security team and be on those calls and listen to what the customers are asking and talk about the data and the statistics around the threat that these businesses face and what a cybersecurity program means, the layers of security, like Ron mentioned, that is so important to protecting their business.
Now, we're in a very unusual time coming, starting to come out of the I won't say post-pandemic era yet, because that may be months before we get to that point, but we're going to start seeing relaxation of rules in various states and counties and over the coming time. People working remote, maybe coming back into the office. What do you see as the security issues right now that maybe MSPs want to deal with? Ron, I don't know what you're seeing. If you want to start this, is what comes next? What do they need to be looking for? What do they need to be planning ahead for?
Well, depending on how they worked with their customers, with their clients to actually enable them, a lot of things have been exposed. If the customers are using their own personal devices to connect back in to a small business office, then you've got to figure out just what was there. What was done on that company laptop when it was taken home? What was done on that company desktop? So there's going to be a lot of issues where people are going to have to go through and make sure that company data stayed where it needs to be, and that nothing personal ended up getting put on these devices. That's one piece of it. But then also they're going to have to look at, really, because the move to push people home and work from home happened so rapidly that a lot of things were put into place, just kind of hit or miss. It was, how fast can I do this? And a lot of businesses, I think, are going to start looking at this as a viable option, work from home. It may be 1 or 2 days a week. Some instances, it may be a permanent capability. But I think what they're going to have to find is better solutions to enable the customer to let their employees work remotely, work from home or wherever they're at, but also do that securely. So there's going to be a big uptick, I think, in the reconciliation of all of the things that have been done to push people home and fix the standardization of the things that you couldn't fix because of this mad rush. There's going to be a lot of that over the next 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, and one of my biggest concerns right now is, those dwell times, right, that we see on average are about 6 months that a hacker has laid doormat within a network and is taking information. So right now, hackers are we see hackers showing up on Zoom meetings, right? They're just having a field day right now. And they realize that there's so many ways in, like Ron's saying. People are working from home and they're doing this not even on their company computers. They're actually doing this on their home computers, which is even scarier. They're not using VPNs. I know internally we saw a huge increase in the demand of setting up VPNs for our customers. But what are we going to find out in 3 to 6 to 9 months about those businesses that did withstand this horrible pandemic? And now they find out that they were attacked, right, by hackers. And now there's this huge breach that they're dealing with. So talking about cost in a time like we are facing, it is really important to have the right type of MDR solutions that manage, detect, and response, managing the network. And that's one of our flagship solutions,
Right.
is our MDR solution, because and I always use this analogy because I think it makes so much sense to people. You have your house, you have door locks, you have window locks, or bars on your windows, window locks, deadbolts, right? But for some people, that's not enough. Like, you actually have to have that alarm. And I'm not saying this just because I'm with ADT, right? I use this analogy all the time because it makes sense. So you have an alarm for what you do when somebody actually breaks in. And if you are targeted, if your house is targeted, they're going to find a way in, right? And so then you have your motion detectors. So when somebody does get in and they're in your house, those motion detectors go off. That's the best way to look at what an MDR solution does for your business. And the neat thing about what we do here with an ADT is that we offer that to MSPs. And again, it is such an affordable price that people would be like, are you kidding? Seriously? I mean, what we can offer an MSP to secure their customers between the managed firewall, which is your doors, your deadbolts, to the MDR solution, which is your alarm and your motion detectors. The price is almost irresponsible for a business not to take advantage of that. And so that's where we're at right now, is going, the cost is not as much of an issue anymore as it used to be. Again, we're trying to bring these enterprise level solutions at an affordable rate.
The cost will be a big question too here, because we know a lot of businesses, and it depends. I think overall, when I'm talking to MSPs on a regular basis, there's some that are vertical specific to like restaurants and car dealerships that have been negatively affected big time. But
Sure.
for the vast majority, they've lost, some seats, but they've picked up additional business during this whole downtime, which is fantastic for them. But they're also wondering what comes next, and if we have another wave of where people are being sent home again, we wonder how many businesses aren't going, let's build up those defenses in between the curves, and especially with, I was talking to a couple of experts last week that said, while the hacking seems to have, and the cyber crime seems to have gone up a little bit, it's not gone up as much as they expect, and they're wondering how many are basically have attacked, have made a penetration, but are just waiting for time to collect more information and really to strike. So there's so many unknowns, I guess, right now. It's an interesting time for MSPs, but from a cybersecurity perspective, what should be their top priorities to focus on? You mentioned a couple of them there. Are there any other thoughts?
Well, the MDR is what limits that dwell time.
Right,
and just
right.
to make that so clear, is that's how you take 6 months and you condense it down to a week, for example, or a couple of days. And again, that's the most important piece, because if you're breached, you have to report it. I think it's a 72-hour window before you have to go public about it. So saying, look, we were breached, but because we had proactive and preventative measures in place, we were able to detect that and kick the hackers off the network. And so the impact is minimized.
One additional piece, though, I think this starts at home. For the MSP who's been scrambling, taking everything that they have, every spare computer, every spare networking device that they've got to help their customers, and then also their employees, a lot of times working remote. This is going to start at home. We've seen over the past 6 months a number of MSP related products being the targets of attacks, especially from state-based organizations. Get into that MSP who has direct connectivity into a business, and that's your conduit. So this thing starts at home. They've got to make sure that they're safe, that they're secure, especially if they have connectivity back into their customers, and then bring that solution. It's the old adage of, I don't go to a mechanic who doesn't take care of his own car. I don't go, if you're not willing to eat your own cake, why would you go to that baker? And in this instance, you're going to find, I think a lot of people are going to, just like you said, Brian, are going to find out that a lot of things have happened. There's a lot of little Easter eggs have been dropped in businesses across the nation, and people are going to start seeing things appearing, odd things they're going to odd traffic on their network. And that's where these MDR solutions really take effect, is because not only do they get that north-south, that the in and outbound from your internet, but also that east-west traffic, what's going along around your network, what's happening inside. Your VPN connection could be that east-west traffic inside your environment. When you bring those desktops that have been sitting on a home network for 45 days, when they bring that thing back and plug it in, what has just appeared in your business? Those are things that are important. So it's going to be an interesting time. I don't see security going away at all.
No, I think it's going to be even more important. I know I talked to several MSPs that towards the tail end too are having a lot of supply chain issues trying to get laptops for those working from home. So they ended up using, their home devices. And
right.
That's not a long-term solution, they realize. So they've got to go back in. But the same point is realizing that just because they're coming back in the office doesn't mean they may be going home sometime soon. So
right.
And desktop.
That home device is not a secure tool in any way, shape, or form.
Send the desktop home. We've seen so many MSPs that are like, just put this thing in your car and let's take it, to your house. It's not a laptop, it's a desktop. But hey, it's better than a home device with kids doing who knows what on that device.
I think the interesting thing when we everything kind of gets back, I won't say normal, but when everybody gets back to the new normal for a short time here, is wondering how much of the financial discussions are going to have to be made beyond just the fact that companies have lost revenue, they want to drop seats. The other part of it is how can they reinvest in some of the infrastructure for their homes as well as for their offices in between, cost effectively. And Ron, to your point, is some of them may end up just working from home long term. It makes you wonder if it's not going to be a bad time to own commercial real estate if people start scaling back their office spaces too. But there might be some savings there if they can renegotiate their contracts. But when it comes down to cost too, how big of an issue do you think budget and price will be in this next period?
I think for some individuals, some companies, it's going to be right in the front, right at the very beginning of it. The restaurants, a lot of the retail places, that's going to be a big push. But at the same time, if you're in a retail space, you're governed by some things that you don't have control over. Things like PCI DSS. There are things that you can't have shortcuts on. So they're going to have to do the things that are necessary, and having the capability of bringing something to that organization, to that retail business that's not an arm and a leg, that doesn't have to, eat into their profits, is going to be a big push. And I think that's where some of the solutions that we're bringing to the table now are going to help, fit that market a lot better.
Makes sense. Are there any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think that there'll be some shifting of costs, right? Like even you mentioned, Brian, some businesses might convert to more of a work from home model because they are seeing productivity. And when you work from home, you can manage your day better, right? So employees seem to have a better quality of life, right? In a sense, not everybody can work from home. There are some people that just don't focus well in that environment, but we might start seeing where costs are shifted from the, expenses for maintaining an office to people working from home.
It'll be interesting because the one thing I think I've seen personally in our area over the last week is a lot of the PPP loans finally got approved.
Yeah.
For the small
Right.
businesses, which is good. I'm not saying everybody did. There's hundreds of people out there going, I didn't get mine, and I understand that. But in the community, we're seeing that there may be at least some of the clients for MSPs here who are, if not made whole, at least will have some cash flow to maybe convert these things to up their cybersecurity, to increase their remote workforce capabilities so that they don't get caught off guard if a next round comes. Obviously, we hope the next round doesn't come, but I think you have to be prepared for it. And if it's not COVID-19,
Right.
it's another disaster that could hit in the future.
Absolutely.
Right.
So it's good to be ahead of it. So, well, it's fantastic having you both here. Unfortunately, we run out of time much too soon every time we do our podcast. But before we sign off today, any final thoughts to share? Why don't I start with you, Ron? Final thoughts for our audience as far as ADT and suggestions?
Well, we've got 140 plus years worth of experience in security, and it was a natural evolution to go from that physical to that cyber piece. And we're here to help. So, we live this, we do it every day. And our goal is to help you with your cybersecurity needs and your customers' needs.
Absolutely. And then what I'll say to that is for MSPs that are having a hard time navigating those conversations, right? Feeling like cybersecurity just isn't a conversation they want to have. Maybe they don't feel like they're still trying to understand, is this really a necessity for my customer? It's almost like talking to your kids about strangers, right? They don't know that it's an issue unless you bring it to their attention. And it's not like you're trying to scare them. It's not fear, it's facts. And it's bringing to their attention something that will take this business down, no doubt, right? So be comfortable, be confident having those conversations because you're actually providing a level of service to your customer that they rely on you to do. And so if you're having trouble with those conversations, we're here to help, whether you're a partner with us or not. Let's just talk. Let's join forces. And then if you are a vendor in this space, like we talked about last night, so many different ones, let's work together. We're in this together to help secure businesses from hackers. Let's join forces. Whatever we can do to make this work for small businesses for the heart of our economy, let's do this, and we got this.
So maybe we need something along the lines of stranger danger. Now that you got me thinking there, Heather.
Yeah.
Maybe we need cyber danger campaign or hacker danger. I got to think.
Yeah.
We got to think that one through. But you left me with an interesting nugget anyway for the day. So
yeah, maybe we'll do a future podcast on cyber stranger danger.
Cyber stranger danger. Yes. Be unaware of your internet connection. You never know what'll be out there.
Yeah.
Awesome, so. Well, great. Well, on behalf of IoTSSA, I'd like to thank Heather Myers and Ron Culler from ADT Cybersecurity for joining us today and telling us a little about the company and informing us on some of the things MSPs, opportunities for MSPs, for one thing. If you haven't had an opportunity to check out the association's valued resources, including the latest panel discussions and blogs tackling the MSP challenges, especially around COVID-19, be sure to check them out on our website, IoTSSA.com. Please stop back and check out the latest episode of Secure Connections podcast and be safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.